Hello, I'm Micks Mowers and Mower Man, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my SGS 50 litre oil-free air compressor because I want to get a little bit of a service where I can. I've had it over a year now, and I just want to let you guys know what things you can do to your air compressor just to make sure they are at tip-top condition, because they do a lot of work, and 9 times out of 10, they're pretty much the main tool that gets forgotten about. However, some of you guys and girls will be on top of your tools, I know you are, but this video is more for other people. If you find that your air compressor is taking a long time to fill up, or it's not filling up as well as it should do, then there are 1 or 2 things you can do just to remedy that, especially if your air compressor is under warranty. So I'm going to go through very quickly what you can do and the important things you must do before you do any work on these sort of compressors anyway. If this is your first time watching Micks Mowers and Mower Man, hit your subscribe button, whack the old bell, set notifications to all, that way you'll be told next time I upload another video. So without further ado, let's get down and dirty. Let's take a little look at my air compressor. Okay, air compressor's up on the old bench. This is my 50 litre upright oilless air compressor, which I purchased myself from a company called SGS. I've had it about a year or so now, probably just under. It's been a super bit of equipment. I'm well happy with it. But there are 1 or 2 things I have noticed it's been doing. It's been taking a little while to build right up to where the pressure should be. Also, it has been going over the pressure as well. Now, I don't know whether that's actually a design fault, or I've got a little lad called Riley Boy, and he might have been touching this adjustment here, which you can adjust the pressure you want of how much goes into your tank. So this was nearly up to the red today. I went to go and fill up Mrs. P's tyres on her car, and that's why I realised it's not quite right. It was going up to the red. It should shut up beforehand. I think Riley Boy's had a little tiny play with this button and wound it all the way up. So I'm going to be winding it down a bit and then turning it on, see whereabouts it trips out, because it should blow off on its own. And it generally should blow off at around about 8 bar is what it used to blow off and turn itself off. But before we start to do anything with these machines, make sure they're turned off at the mains and unplugged. The main things you can do just to make sure your equipment is working fully is, first thing to do is inside here, there's all your motor stuff. So just get in there with your air compressor and give that a darn good blow off inside. You don't want to be taking these off because it's not designed to. So just a general tidy, because they do just sit around in a workshop and gather dust. And I do a lot of spraying and stuff and bits and pieces, so mine's always getting covered. So just blow some of the residual dust out from inside the motor system, because it will get hot. That's good. Okay. With that cleaned off, the next thing I want to do is you need to empty out any air that's in this system, because we want to be getting down the bottom to undo the vent to release the water. So what you can do is you can just hold this in until all the air is expelled. Okay, now what I will say is, even if you do that, you may still find that even when this is pretty much stopped next to nothing, there's still a little bit of pressure in there. So what you have on this model, you have a pressure release valve. So I've got it showing, about half a bar. So on this side here, you can just undo this anti-clockwise, okay? It won't come off, but it just keeps spinning, and then you get hold of it and just gently pull it out with your hand. And it will release the pressure so much quicker. And it's good to do this via the safety valve as well, because that way you are making sure that the valve actually is working. So that's pretty much stopped there, okay? But at the valve, we've still got air. So now I'm pretty certain that all the air is now out of that valve. I can now do that valve back up. Okay, just finger tight, and just stops you from pulling that out. You can now remove the connection from there. I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm just going to put the air compressor up in the air, and I'll come back to you in 2 ticks. Okay, right at the base of my my air compressor, it says, warning, drain moisture from the tank every week, prevent tank corrosion. Now, some people do this every day, and that's cool, right? If you're on it every day, that's, I've got nothing to say to you. That's absolutely brilliant, right? The last time this was empty was probably about 2 months ago, okay? Now, you can go onto YouTube, right, and punch in air compressor explodes, okay? And that's mainly because people do not empty these out, and they do corrode inside, and they go bang, okay? They literally go bang. They're like a bomb or like a torpedo, okay? Literally they are. I do know of a YouTuber, I can't remember his name, he drained some out with a little bit of pressure in his, and he got smothered in fluid. I think his name was Martin somebody, can't remember his name now. Got a channel called Retro Restore. He did the same thing, but he had just a little bit of pressure in his, and it was a bit more than we thought it was. So what you've got to do here is just literally just undo this little tiny valve at the bottom, okay? And then put your tub underneath. You can just let it fall on the floor, okay, which is no drama. Now there shouldn't be, he says, any air in here. There's a little tiny bit, even though we pulled the valve. You hear that? So just gently undo the valve. Once all the air has come out, you can then release the valve fully from inside, tip it up onto its bum, and let that drain out. And you can see the corrosion's already started. Okay, so that will now drain the air compressor out. Now, I'm not expecting there to be a massive amount in here, okay, because as I say, I do empty mine out relatively regular, but you will still get some. So give your air compressor a little bit of a wiggle. Okay, now I've seen anything from next to nothing to nearly a litre of water in some compressors, okay, because people just do not do this, and I do it regularly, okay, I do it regularly. This has been about a month or so, month and a half since I last done it, but I haven't really used it, that's the truth, because during the hot season, which we just had, I haven't been down the shed, okay. So now that I know that my fluid is now all out of my air compressor, I can tip the air compressor back slightly and just retrieve the bowl. That's it. Now there should be no fluid. It's a very small amount just dripping out of there, so I'm just going to let that just drip. It's a drip about every 3 seconds, okay? Bit of rag. I can sit there. But inside my air compressor, that's what we're getting. This horrible, yucky, rusty fluid. Now, if you find that your air compressor is not getting up to its level, or it's struggling, you can hear the motor labouring slightly, that's because you're trying to compress water. And if you're trying to compress water, then your air compressor is going to struggle, because it's designed to compress air, not water. Same as in a petrol mower, a petrol engine. If you have water instead of petrol, it can't combust the water, so therefore you'll have engine problems. Okay, so make sure that you drain out the bottom. It's generally at the bottom of your air compressor. Drain that water out, but you must make sure all the air is taken out. Otherwise, you might end up with a bit of a yucky mess, as some people have found out. So that's the yuckiness, and then inside that there are little bits of rust as well. See, so my machine is already suffering, and that's even though I do mine quite regularly. Look at the rust components there. Look, see all the bits and pieces. So you need to make sure you take good care of it. Now you could, if you want to, you could just swill that out very quickly with some clean water, swill it out and make sure it's all completely drained, just to swill it, but I don't think that's necessary. And then all you've got to do is tip your air compressor back and loosely fit your valve, and then these don't have to be tight, just has to be just nicked up hand tight. That's more than enough, okay. And the next time you go to do it, you can undo it hand tight, which would be in roughly a week to 2 weeks, depending on how much I actually use this device. And I now know that this machine is now safe to use because I drained all the water out. Okay, so now that's done, I know that my air compressor is completely empty, no air, and also no water in there. It's not very heavy. I'm going to put it on the deck, and next thing I want to do is I now want to set it up, and I now want to fully run it with air, okay? Because, as I say, I think a little tiny lad who comes in my workshop, I think he might have had a little tiny play with this, and I think he's adjusted my pressure. So I'm going to turn it down. Up here there's a plus and a minus. Let me bring you in. There's a little tiny plus and a minus just here. Tick it that way for clockwise for plus and anti-clockwise for minus. I'm going to turn it down, okay, to about there. I don't know how far my little boy has adjusted that. So what I'm now going to do, I'm now going to put my hose back on. I'm now going to fill that back up with air, and make sure it actually blows off, and we shall see by the gauge how quick it takes and at what pressure it'll actually blow off. So give us 2 seconds, and we'll see. Okay, so that should have blown off by now. So do I actually have a fault with my air compressor, or has someone turned it up? So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to screw that anti-clockwise again to take some pressure out, see if it kicks in. Okay, it hasn't kicked in again, so I'm now going to release some pressure. So I have a feeling it possibly wasn't Riley Boy. We actually might have now a dodgy regulator. So I'm going to release some pressure, and at the same time I'm going to screw this all the way in. So now I think we may be working. I can now bring the pressure up to where I want it. So it is actually working on the gauge. And I want it at around about 8 bar, which is going to be, bring it down again, just so it starts to drop. It goes. That's about 7. I'm going to try about there. We'll now see what happens. Let's turn it back on. I want to go up to about 8 bar. So that shut off all on its own at around about, where are we, 6, 7, that's about 7 bar. So I'll go up just a touch. And that's blown off. See, I can't turn that on. Yeah, so I'm going to release some pressure. I'm going to turn it up just a touch more. Oh, it smells a bit warm in there now. Because we're making it work now. So I'm going to give it a bit of a clean off. but now it's starting to work as it should do. So I've got a feeling my Riley boy got in there. Right, so as you can see, that actually went out at around about 7.5, nearly 8 bar. So I think my little Riley boy actually might have been touching that little tiny thing there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a black marker pen. I'm going to make a mark on that so I know exactly where that should be, okay? Because that could have been quite dangerous in regards to he's wound that all the way in. I could turn my compressor on thinking that it'll only go up as far as 10 bar, but that was actually in the red already this morning when I was filling up ready to do Mrs. P's tyres. So how far had he screwed that in? How far would that have gone? Remember what I said? He's like a torpedo, so you need to make sure your valves are working so it does cut off when you ask it to. Otherwise, you can find yourself in a bit of serious trouble. So there you go. Quick little, not even a service, a bit of maintenance on your air compressor. One, you must just blow off all the debris inside. These machines do get a bit hot, especially for cheaper ones, just like mine. They do get a bit warmer, and mine is oilless as well. Number two, make sure that your blow-off valve is working so that you can just unscrew it and just pull the valve out. That will dump your air very, very quickly in case you have a bit of a problem. Make sure that all your air is fully expelled, and then get underneath or around the side, wherever your valve is, and slowly undo the screw at the bottom, and that will take out any excess water you have in there. And you should be doing that weekly, or if you use your air compressor a lot, you should be doing that at the end of each shift. And I know that some people do that just as a thing. End of each day, they drain their air compressor down and release any water out of it as well. And don't forget, if you've got kids in the workshop just like me, when did that happen? He must have slipped past them one day and just turned my little regulator valve up, because it was blowing off right into the red, and it was getting really, really warm. And it wasn't until I turned it right back down again to around about 6 bar, then up to around about 7.5. I now know my regulator is now working, and somebody has been in here fiddle-faring, turning up my regulator. So I'm going to put a little mark on there, just roughly so I know where it is, and if it's nowhere near the mark next time, I know he's been playing with it. So make sure that all those things are done, and your air compressor should last you a long, long time. I've had this one about a year now, just under a year, and the one before that I had about 2.5 years, really, really cheap. But if as long as you look after it, it will look after you. That's the moral of the story, isn't it? So if you like sort of video Micks Mowers and Mower Man on how to look after your air compressor, then hit the subscribe button, whack the old bell, set notifications to all. That way you'll be told next time I upload another video. I look forward to this episode of Micks Mowers very, very soon. But until then, guys, don't forget, much more importantly, take it easy.